Hello, this is the third video in the series Talk Data to Me from Counselor Connect. This series focuses on specific skills to help school counselors analyze and disaggregate data. In the final video of this series, you will also learn ways to share your data once the analysis is complete. In this video, we will identify tools to analyze data by using pivot tables and slicing data. And we will also learn how to use the Indiana GPS dashboard to find and analyze your school's data. We hope you will feel confident using your new skills and are able to make a plan to implement your new knowledge. Let me introduce you to today's speakers. My name is Michelle Clark, and I'm the director of the Student School Family Engagement Team.
And I'm Cathy Patain, Zionsville Community High School's Counseling Department Chair.
We are both members of the Comprehensive School Counseling Strategic Priority Team for Counselor Connect. Counselor Connect is an expert network of student services professionals who provide professional development, resources, and support. Now let's get started. The first thing today that we're going to talk about is where you can find some data that is specific to your district or your school. The Indiana Department of Education has been creating a new data dashboard called Indiana Graduates Prepared to Succeed, otherwise known as Indiana GPS. So today I'm just going to show you a little bit how to navigate through this dashboard to find specific data that would be useful for you for your district or your school level. So first, you'll see on the dashboard the 5 characteristics of an Indiana graduate prepared to succeed: academic mastery, career and post-secondary readiness, credentials and experiences, communication, collaboration, work ethic, and civic, financial, and digital literacy. You can skip the scrolly telling feature and go straight to the dashboard. So the first thing you'll see on the home screen is where is Indiana today? And so this is where the current data lives for the state of Indiana. And you can see some of the headline indicators that the state is focusing on, some of these being 3rd grade literacy, college and career credentials, 6th grade math growth, grad pathways completion, and employment and enrollment. And so you'll see currently where Indiana is today. And then you can see where we are looking to go. And you'll be able to see the targets for the state for those headline indicators. The next feature I'm going to show you is how to look up your district data. So you can go to the Find Schools button. And we are just going to use Zionsville as an example today. And you can see that it pulls up Zionsville Community Schools district webpage. At the top, you'll see a data bar that this will eventually replace Indiana's InView. So if you were using that to find school and district data, this is where all of that will be housed now. And then you can see the benchmarked headline indicators for each of the goals that Indiana is focusing on. And you can look to see if your school has met the state goal. And if so, you'll see a gold goal bar located on the dashboard. And so you can use this information to focus on data specific to your district, and you can click into each data point and break it down by demographic. You can also click more into it for a full report. And some of this will require an additional login, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. So this is how you could look up district information. If you wanted to go in to find school-specific information, I am going to use my children's elementary school because I'm also going to show you a feature that can only be done with schools. So here you'll see the information specific to Hazeldale Elementary. As you can see, some of the information that would have been on a district page or a high school page are not there because they're not relative to an elementary school. But you can see all of the headline indicators that would be. So you've got 3rd grade literacy, student attendance, iLearn performance, But one of the unique features that is new that I wanted to share with you is you'll see that you can click over here, a star added to favorites. Once you've gone in and selected multiple favorites, so let's say you wanted to do a comparison to different schools in your district, you can favorite or star all of those schools, and then you'll be able to click into the different data to see how they compare to each other. So this could also be useful when you're trying to maybe see comparison between schools within your district or schools in your surrounding area if you don't have data that is specific to your school. If you would like to find specific demographic information, going back to finding schools, again, you are able to click in to get a full report, but to do so, you have to have a login that you would get from your school administrator. So if you are not privy to that information, you can ask your administrator to share that information with you, and that will allow you to drill down to student level data. It's obviously lagging right now, but as you can see, this is school data for student attendance. But if I were to go up to the right-hand corner where it says school personnel only, if you have the login, you can drill down to student-specific data. And so this is a great way to find information that you can use to disaggregate and look at to set goals for your counseling program. One last thing that I would like to share with you is there is something called the data center. So going back to our slide, the IDOE data center and reports is a great place to find public data that you can use to slice and dice and create pivot tables related to your school or your corporation. But there are many different results. One that I'm going to focus in on is the third grade reading data dashboard. I know there's a lot of talk right now about third grade reading data and the iRead, and so they've created a dashboard that is very specific to each corporation and each school. It has multiple different ways that you can pull information, break it down by demographics, special education, English learners, socioeconomic, etc. So this is also a great place to find and dig into some data related to your school or your school corporation. And so now I am going to kick it back to Cathy so she can talk about pivot tables.
Thanks, Michelle. Pivot tables are an active way to quickly summarize large amounts of data. And what we're going to use in this example is our data spreadsheet that we've been using this entire time with our fake set of data. And so in our example that I'm about to share, we're going to look at ways of drilling down on special populations. So I'm going to highlight the entire spreadsheet so that we gather all of the information. Click on Insert and then Pivot Table. It's going to ask me where do we want to open this, and I'm going to open it into a new worksheet. You'll notice at the bottom of my spreadsheet, it has opened into spreadsheet number 1. I can rename this in whatever special population. So with this first group, I'm just going to label it free and reduced because we're going to first start identifying that as our special population. So when I take the free and reduced lunch, so this is our lunch group here, I'm actually going to add the free and reduced population to the columns because I want to separate them out by columns. And then what is it I'm specifically looking at is going to be Q1 grades. So those students who have failing grades in Q1. So by looking at this chart and the data it has pulled from the full list of data, it is telling me that our students who are on free lunch, there are 19 students who currently have Fs. For the full pay, we have 37. And for the reduced students, we have 18 students that have failing classes, failing grades. Now, with this information, I can also hit the insert button. If I would like to, I could hit the insert button and then insert a chart, and that makes it even easier to read this information. So now that I've got one special group, one population identified, which is the free and reduced lunch kiddos, I could actually go back to the full data again. This is our original spreadsheet. If I just scroll up, you'll see all the information is in here. Let's do this a second time and even a third time. In this next group, I'm going to insert the pivot table again. It's looking at all of this mass information. Let's say for this second population, I'm going to look at our military students, those who have a family member that's actively deployed at this point in time. Again, I'm looking at quarter 1 grades and failures. So I have differentiated, saying I only want to look at our military students, and I would like to see how many of those students have failing grades. To make it easier to see this big gulp of data, I can simply insert that chart. Remember how it has a label down here of sheet 2. To make it a little friendlier, I'm going to also label it so I know what it is that I am reading. And finally, let's do our last population group. We're going to look at the special education students. So this is the last time that we're going to do this insert pivot table. And it says, what data are we using? We're using the full spreadsheet. We're opening a new worksheet. And I'm going to label this group the special education population. Remember, we're taking our population into the columns because we're only wanting to drag out students that are in the special education department. And we want to see how many of the students have quarter 1 Fs. So I'm going to drag that down and we'll see how many students have that. Last time that we're going to insert the chart. Remember, we have to, sometimes that happens if you don't have your data populated the way that I just did. We're going to go ahead and just highlight it because we lost that piece. That's an easy thing to do, though, is grab it and there's the information. So, one other thing that I'd like to show you is we have these 3 separate sheets, but what if we would like to share this information, all 3 special populations, and share them on one spreadsheet? We can do that. There's a little button down here where you can add a new sheet. If I click on new sheet, it says sheet 4. I'm going to rename this. I always rename the sheets as soon as you're creating them because that's the best way of making sure that you are on the right tab for whatever it is that you're doing. So by clicking on the rename and then renaming it dashboard, this is now where I can place all of my data. I can move all of those charts into one location. But we might not want to have any lines that are already there in grids. So I can click on view and then I can say, let's get rid of those grids. That way it's just a clean sheet ready to go for your dashboard. First thing I'm going to do is grab the very first chart that I would like to use, highlight it, right click, and then you can see there's an option that says move chart. When I click on move chart, it's going to ask where are we moving it to? And I want all 3 of my charts to be on the dashboard. So I select dashboard and click OK. Now you'll see that this population of group, the free and reduced students have moved, the chart has moved to the dashboard. I'm going to do the same thing with the chart from the military families, move chart, select where you're moving it to. We're going to move it to the dashboard, click OK. You'll see that it's right here, and I'm just going to drag and drop it wherever I'd like it to be. And then the final group, highlight it, right click, move chart. Where are we moving it to? We are moving it to the dashboard and click OK. Now this takes us to the last tool we're going to review today. And that tool is called Splice Data. Before I get to the Splice Data part, I just wanted to show you that, I have all 3 of my charts, but they're not easily viewable in the same screen. So one of the things that I can do is just Control key, hold it down, and scroll my mouse down until it's all viewable in the same screen. So now let's move on to Splice Data. And Splice Data is actually a way that you can move the charts. You can actually move and manipulate the information inside of these charts all at once. And it's a way of analyzing the information. So we're going to add some buttons that's called slicing the data that will allow us to kind of manipulate all three charts at the same time. So I'm going to click on one of these charts, and then you'll see right here, pivot chart analyzation. When I click on that, I have an option to insert a slicer. Okay, so remember, inserting a slicer means that I'm adding buttons, and maybe this is going to allow me to look at even more information. So I'm going to insert the slicer, and now it's asking what type of information are you wanting to add on top of this chart that we're already looking at. And in this instance, what I'm going to do is take a look at one more item. And if you come back over here to your, I'm going to hit cancel for a minute and show you. If you come back over here to our original data sheet, this is where you can decide, okay, what is it that I'm looking for? And in this instance, I think if we look at referrals, that's going to help us see how many of our students are having some issues with referrals as well as failing classes and some of our special population groups. So again, if I highlight it and I click on pivot analyzation, insert slicer, this is where I can start to look at some of the information that's down here, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at the question on referrals to the office and how many referrals have been there, okay? So in this instance, you'll see referrals of 0 to 3.5 referrals. And then if I click on it and say I want to look at students who have 1 referral, you'll see the data changes. If I say 2 referrals, it's changed again. But notice when I'm making the selection, it is only changing one of my 3 charts. So what I want to have happen is when I click on this, that all 3 of my charts are moving with the same information. And the way that I can do that is by clicking on report connections. And this is going to say which pivot tables are you wanting to add this information to. And so I'm going to say, hey, I want to be able to slice the data on pivots tables 2, 3, and 4, which are my special populations group of free and reduced military and special education. So I click OK. And now when I click on how many have had 1 referral, you will see the changes on all 3 of our charts. Again, if I click on 3, you'll see all 3 charts are changing. So this is just an additional way of making sure that we are seeing our information in its fullest capacity and trying to drill down on trends to help build your school counseling program. We are wrapping up with today's presentation, and with our data series, video 3 is now complete, but coming up in the next few months, in the next month, video 4 will help us with effective ways to share the data and putting what we have learned all together. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope that you have learned effective ways to share data and putting what you have learned into practice.